Well, good morning, St. Philip's family, and a blessed Tuesday in the fifth week of Easter to you. Today, in our reflections on the Psalter, I want to talk to you about how to cultivate a heart of worship. How do we cultivate hearts that desire to worship? Well, ultimately, it begins through knowing something about the object of our worship, something about God. Well, one of the greatest blessings of the Psalter is that it teaches us about God. Specifically, it teaches us about what theologians often call the attributes or the perfections of God. These are those qualities that belong to God's essential nature or to His being. For instance, the Psalms tell us that God simply is eternal, that God is omnipresent, that He is good, that He's all-powerful and loving and kind, and so on. And all of God's perfections that are revealed in Scripture, all of them are crucial for growing and cultivating a heart of worship. But the one I want to briefly concentrate on today is His beauty. And in Psalm 27, verse 4, it's the beauty of God that seems to evoke this great sense of delight in David, who is the psalmist here. He says in verse 4, "One thing have I asked of the Lord, that will I seek after, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to gaze upon the beauty of the Lord, and to meditate in His temple." Now, how can we think about or meditate on what David calls the beauty of the Lord? Well, many of us will start by observing the beauty around us in creation, because we somehow intuitively know that it reveals something about the beauty of the one who created it. And Scripture teaches us that God shares many of His perfections with His creation. For instance, you may know of a very beautiful place, a mountain, a lake, a stream, or something like that. Or perhaps someone who is extremely patient and kind, or who loves so well, or someone who is very wise. Well, how did they get those good or those beautiful qualities? Because God made them that way. And because the source of those good qualities is God Himself. One of the principles that theologians of the church have handed down to us is that each positive good that you see exemplified in creatures and creation, beauty included, is carried to its highest perfection in God. So each good quality that we see in a person or a place, whether it's goodness or justice or beauty, should point us beyond that creaturely quality in that person or that thing to its highest perfection in the one who created it. It should point us to the one whose very fingerprints we are seeing when we notice that good quality in that creature. And that should set our hearts to worship. I love being outdoors. Maybe you do too. But have you ever come to, say, a place in the mountains or someplace and you see a sunset and you're taken back by it? Has that ever happened to you? You say, man, just look at that. It is absolutely beautiful. And it literally takes your breath away. The beauty of it. Why? Because you're getting a glimpse of the fingerprint of the one who created that beauty. And if that's just a fingerprint, you're set to wondering in amazement how awesome must His beauty be in Himself. And you long with David here to gaze on Him in His beauty. The problem is that if you and I, in our current state of sin and frailty, were to look on the beauty of the one who created that sunset, like David speaks of here in this psalm, it would be too much for us. It would drive us mad. The sheer delight and joy of beholding beauty in its purest form would disintegrate us. We couldn't handle it. And one of the reasons why sanctification and then glorification is necessary for a child of God is so that not only will our sin be removed so that we can come into His presence, but so that we might be strengthened with the capacity to behold such beauty as David speaks of here. My favorite book in the Chronicle of Narnia series is The Voyage of the Dawn Treader. And at the end of that book, they notice that as they keep getting closer and closer to the land of the Emperor beyond the sea, that the sun keeps getting bigger and bigger and brighter and brighter. And then they soon realize that, something must be happening to us. Why is that? Because a couple of weeks ago, we could have never looked directly into that sun that we're seeing now. It would have blinded us, even destroyed us. And so as you and I grow closer and closer to God in this life through Jesus Christ, something will be happening to us. Yeah, our capacity to recognize His beauty in creation, in Scripture, in redemption history will grow. Until one day, we will, with David, be able, in our glorified state, to gaze upon the beauty of the Lord Himself. So I'd like to encourage you today to get out into nature, perhaps go for a walk, observe the birds, the flowers, watch a sunset. Let these created beauties set your heart to a longing after the uncreated beauty. That beauty that never fades or changes or grows old or common, until your heart is moved to worship the God who is beauty. Well, God bless you today, and I hope that you'll continue the journey with me today and every day for the rest of your life of cultivating a heart of worship by searching out and finding and beholding more and more of God's beauty.